name is Rachel. I don't do this. This is not something I do. I don't get on and talk to people through the internet. But I do have a YouTube channel, and my channel is mostly to show my edited videos, mostly my dog training and my dog. But anyway, I digress. The reason I felt the urge to do this is because I am on YouTube a lot. I do watch a lot of movies and a lot of content from people that I am learning from. And I've been running across, I started out finding out a lot of stuff about Scientology, which that's for another video. I did get into that a little bit. Not as bad as the Jehovah Witness thing. But, so that led me to all the thousands of videos that are Jehovah's Witnesses that have left their truth. And so I thought that I would give my story, because the stories that I've been hearing have been just sad, sad, sad stories. And I mean, a lot of people now are saying they have a good life, but they had a horrible time getting there. And those were mostly the ones that were raised in that cult. And so I had a very different experience. I did leave, but I left because it was time. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about how my experience affected me and my life being in this organization. First off, I was raised Southern Baptist, so none of my family are in the truth. None of my family wanted anything to do with it. They were happy that I was getting straightened out and all that. But okay, so I left home at 18. I couldn't wait to get away from all that. And so to spare all the details of how I got to where I got, I basically was a wild child. And because I was raised up so strict, I was really, I was like that spring that you close down and then it gets released, and I just went quite crazy. So I just got into everything. Of course, now we're talking about the 70s. I graduated in 72 and graduated high school in 72. So that was the 70s. The 70s was really, really cool. Hippies, and that's what I was, a hippie. And so I did all the hippie stuff, the pot, the acid, the lifestyle, everything. And ended up was raised up in Oklahoma, so then ended up in hitchhiking around, ended up in Oregon. Anyway, then one of my trips back, I think I was 19, one of my trips back to visit my family and friends, hitchhike, I stopped at my girlfriend's house, who had been my very close girlfriend for the whole school, from from 6th grade on. So she had gotten into Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's when I went to visit her. She started telling me all about it. Well, it sounded pretty cool, and I'm always open to learn stuff. I'm still that way. So I listened to everything she said, and it sounded pretty cool. Mostly what I liked about it was that they were against churches. You can figure that. They were against churches, and they called it Christendom. And so I was like, cool, I'm against churches, so that's cool. So, because I hated going to church as a kid. I hated it my whole life. None of the stuff they told me made any sense. And so anyway, so here I am at her house, and she has this book, and I don't know if they still have this book, but it was like the book. It was a little blue book, and it was called The Truth. And at the time they were short of those books. They needed to order more or something, so she couldn't sell me that book or give me that book because it was her book. Well, I had an opportunity to, let's just say, borrow the book. So I slipped it into my bag and left. She didn't know I took it. And anyway, so I visited and then went back to Oregon, and then I turned and kept that there and got into some discussions with other people. Got into a really bad discussion with one of these guys that I was hanging out with, I didn't know anything about any of this. We weren't raised up knowing anything about the world. We were kept very naive. He was Muslim. And so I started telling him all this stuff. Man, he got mad. I was like freaking out because why are you getting so mad? I'm just telling you about this. But so that was the only experience I ever had with a Muslim. Whew, it was crazy. But so anyway, then I turned 20. And when I turned 20, I was like looking around me, and because I was living a very, very nomadic life that was not very productive, and it wasn't going to serve me well as I aged. So I decided 20 didn't sound so good. 20 sounded pretty, like 20 is like, it was a reality hit. It's time to grow up, time to quit playing around here. Now it's time to get down to business. So I wrote my family, and my mom said that she would come and get me. And so remember, she's in Oklahoma, so she gets in her car. We set a time and everything, and her travel time and all. And she comes and gets me, rents a U-Haul trailer, and loads up my stuff, and she drives me back to Oklahoma. Well, I'm going back to Oklahoma so I can be a Jehovah's Witness. And I ended up getting a job, and I was a nanny. And I lived with my parents. I paid rent, but I lived with my parents. And then I started studying with my girlfriend, and ended up being a Jehovah's Witness. And I don't know what age I was when I got baptized. So I was 20. That was in 75. And I stayed in till 85, till I was 30. During those 10 years, I did get married. I married a brother. And just was doing all the things that was very, I thought was going to make me more of a model citizen, somebody. And plus I was not like doing the normal thing, I wasn't going to church. I was doing this other thing. And the stuff they said made a lot of sense to me, but I didn't inquire. I didn't do any critical thinking. I didn't have to. I just, it was like, cool, we'll do this now. And so as time went on with my marriage, I got married. Okay, my marriage was, I shouldn't have gotten married. I didn't know this guy that well. It was just all like, we're all just playing house, we're playing religion. So we got married, and he turned out to be an alcoholic. And that's something about Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know now because it's been a long time. I'm 69, so I'm 3 months into being 69. So they were big drinkers. Big drinkers. And, you couldn't smoke cigarettes, but you could drink. Go figure. But anyway, and we had lots of parties, let me tell you. I had some fun times. So I shouldn't have got married, but this guy was an alcoholic. He was a full-blood Choctaw Indian, and alcohol kind of runs in the family, or alcoholism, and he was pretty miserable living with an alcoholic. In the middle of the night one time, he came home late. He would do side jobs, and he came home late, and he threw up all over me. I was in the bed, and he just threw up all over me. So, that's the kind of stuff. Being with a drunk person is not fun. And I did try talking to the elders about it, and they just, I don't know, they just acted like it was my imagination, because he knew how to be an alcoholic. He knew how to drink, as far as fooling everybody. And his drink was beer. He could down a case of beer in seconds. But he did it in secret. He was a closet alcoholic. And the elders wouldn't believe me. And so as time went on, we were married 7 years. And as time went on, I became, I didn't want in that marriage anymore. I wanted out of it. I didn't really love him to begin with. And so, you know, and he was a nice guy and all, but he wasn't really my type. And so, and with the brothers not really listening to me and me having to endure this, I even went to AA meetings where I learned about alcoholism, because I wasn't raised up about that kind of stuff. And so I learned all about alcoholism through going to these meetings and talking to a counselor and learning how to deal with it. And I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So that during all that time, I was also kind of distancing myself from the meetings and from, I never liked really the meetings that much. What I liked about the truth and what it helped me, the truth, that's so funny. But anyway, what I really liked about it was that it taught me that I could be with normal, normal people. I mean by normal, like not hippie type people. People that had, you know, lives and had families and had marriages and had, you know, that weren't thinking of partying all the time and getting high all the time and, you know, all this. And so it kind of gave me a perspective that I was thinking that I needed to do. You know, I needed to learn how to be a regular person, I guess, not living some fantasy life. And so that taught me well, and I got some really good friends. I mean, I thought that these guys were like, well, they were my brothers and sisters, you know. We hung out together. We went on vacation. We went on ski trips. We went out to eat. We did everything. Hung out at their house. I had really, really close friends. And so that was my help in finding my way out of that hippie lifestyle into a regular good citizen type person. But what I liked about it too was they were against the government. So they still kind of were kind of supported my ideas about stuff, because I was very anti-establishment, very you know, going to protest and, you know, stuff, all that in the 70s. That was normal, you know. So I liked all that, and that's what kept me in. I hated doing the talks, you know, where the women weren't allowed to get at the podium and give a talk, which would have just been so much easier. No, what we had to do was write out a script, and we had to, you know, do it with another person. So if it was your turn to do a talk, then you had to write a script. And your script was for the other person and you, and it was a pretend thing, you know, like you were pretending to do a Bible study, or you were pretending to bump into someone on the street. So you had to write this thing out, and you did it on those little 3x5 index cards. And then you'd get up on the stage, and you'd sit in chairs, or some people would stand up, but most everybody would sit in chairs across from each other and act out this little scenario of how you converted somebody. I don't know. But I hated doing that. And but that was just one of the things that you had to do. And I did not like going out and knocking on people's doors. And I always acted like I was so scared and so dumb that I just don't know what to say to these people, even though they give you stuff to say, you know. So I always went with someone that was like, oh, well, come with me and you can just go with me. So I would always go with someone to the door. And then I'd just let them talk, and I might say a few things, but I wouldn't say anything because I didn't really know the scriptures and I didn't really study all that stuff. I mean, I went to the studies. You had to do all that. You had to go to the Bible studies. You had to go to the meetings, and you were always doing something. But it was, to me, it was the socializing part was fun. Once we got over all that regimented stuff, and then it was fun time, and yeah. So when it came to my marriage, and I was seeing that I was losing interest in that, it wasn't fun anymore because I didn't really have a partner that I was sharing my life with. And so I knew the only way out of my marriage was adultery. And I knew the only way out of Jehovah's Witness without them hounding me was adultery. Doing something that just, cut the tides. And so I got me a guy that I thought, well, he looks pretty interesting, because I was driving a school bus as a side job, and he was another school bus driver. Anyway, ended up having adultery. And so then, this is so crazy. It doesn't take long for word to get around. And of course, my ex caught us, he's my ex now, but my husband then caught us, caught this guy in the house. And so, of course, when he ran and told the elders, well, it wasn't long before, and then that was a big blow up between me and him, and then we split our ways. It hurt me that he got hurt like that, but, hey, you live and learn. And it's terrible to be that callous. But anyway, so he ran to the elders, and then he moved out, and the next thing you know, and I'm still with this guy. I'm like, this guy's pretty cool. I think I'll just stick with him. And so the elders called. This was like maybe weeks or so. I would see him drive by the house every now and then, like they were stalking me, just seeing what I was up to, and this guy he had moved in, when my husband moved out, he moved in. And then I told my husband, I said, you get the divorce, because I wasn't going to pay for it. I'll let him pay for it. And anyway, that's a whole nother story there, that whole divorce. But anyway, get back on track here. The elders called and wanted to have the little meeting, and I knew what it was going to be about. So I had the guy drive me to the Kingdom Hall, and I go inside, and then of course there's there's like a little conference area that you go into, that we went into, and there were 3 elders in there, and they sit down, and they were all like, real, how are you, and I'm like, fine. I'm real solemn, because I'm like, let's get this shit over with. And they go, do you know why you're here? And I said, yeah, I know exactly why I'm here. I said, we're here so you can disfellowship me and I can get the hell out of here. And they're just like, they were taken back, and so they wanted to make sure that I was, if I was sorry, that I could, be redeemed, and I don't know, just a bunch of crap. I didn't want anything to do with that anymore. I'm the type that I've got this Band-Aid on my arm, and I've got hair on my arm. I am not going to take and slowly tear this Band-Aid off little by little by little as it's killing me. I'm more of a rip it off. And I was ripping off that marriage, and I was ripping off that religion. And I was ready to get on with a new chapter in my life, and that's exactly what I did. At the time, I was also taking we had to do this course to drive a school bus to get certified, and they would only do it once a year. So you'd be driving the school bus for, most of the school year, and then the school course would come up where you had to get certified in order to continue to drive the school bus. And so all the other witness sisters were in that class with me, because that's how we were all witnesses driving the school buses. And so during that time, I knew that I was disfellowshipped, and I knew that they probably would announce it at the next meeting. So here, I'm at the school bus thing, and all these sisters are in there, and they were all my very, very good close friends. So that was very awkward, because I knew I couldn't talk to them and they couldn't talk to me. So we just all acted like we were all of us were all invisible to each other, and they would talk and visit and chat up with each other, and then I was kind of left out of it. So that was kind of awkward. So I can kind of have some feeling what it must have been like for these people that have families, where the families turn on them like that. I wasn't close to my family. Me and my sister now, we didn't talk for like 15 years, but now we're like closer than ever. And it's because we both have life experiences now, and we know we've been in the dark, and so now we know the light. When you can have a contrasting experience, you can recognize the good from the bad. When you are just in a state of what you think is good, and you don't have any kind of contrasting experience, you don't really know what's good and bad. And so my sister and I get along great now. We're like buddies now. But anyway, we weren't that way growing up, and we certainly weren't that way in our young adult life. And I was pretty pushy towards her too. I was the older sister, I used to beat her up and stuff like that. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Get back on subject. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do this was to kind of let people know that you are having this experience for a reason. You're having this experience of your family turning on you for a reason. And it's up to you to find out what that reason is, or to be open to learn that there could be a reason why it's happening. Instead of just pondering over the negativity of the event, thinking about, what am I learning? Maybe you're going to learn to be a better parent. Maybe you're going to learn that not to just believe whatever comes your way. Like me. I mean, whatever came my way, if it sounded good, hell yeah, I'll do that. That sounds good. So critical thinking is pretty important. So I've learned about critical thinking. I've learned about doing research. I've learned about looking into things. I've learned that everything that bad happens to you for a reason. It's a lesson. It's a life lesson for you to learn. And so I really would hope that, and I know people, I mean, they've been driven to the point of suicide, which is really, really sad. Because they could have just changed their perspective a little, just look at it from a different viewpoint. Don't be so heavy. Don't be so down. And I know it's hard to lose your family. I guess, because I could have very easily just, if my family pissed me off, I didn't have any problem not talking to them. The shunning thing is terrible for an organization to do, and it's a tactic to keep you in. And anything that you get yourself involved in, if they have tactics that manipulate you, that tell you how to think, how to walk, how to dress, how to have sex with your husband, all that stuff. If they're telling you that if you leave, this is going to happen to you, we're not going to like you anymore, you're out, it's all that stuff is not something that is going to be a thing that's going to make you a better person. It's going to segregate you from the world, and the world is where you're going to learn your lesson. So if your lessons are to so you can evolve and be a better person, where you can expand your consciousness and learn about compassion, empathy, and gratitude. Most of all, gratitude. If you don't have gratitude for even your horrible, terrible experiences, having gratitude helps you change your perspective. And I don't know if anybody will see this, because I'm not an influencer. I don't have that kind of a channel that I'm telling people this stuff. And I doubt that I'll do it again, although I do have a little story about Scientology I might tell. Anyway, that's another one. And I just want people to know that just kind of open your mind a little and just shift your view of how you're looking down on this experience. And it's not going to be easy. And just get out of your head and quit taking life so serious. I mean, we're here to have fun. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to love. We're here to have compassion. We're here to figure things out and to experience life. And you can't experience life if you're living in a cave, that cave where you're seeing shadows on the wall, but you're in the cult, you don't even get to see the shadows. The shadows are told to you by somebody else. These shadows are on the wall, so this is what's happening. You don't even get to see the shadows. Get out of the cave and see life for what it is. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Plato's Cave. Anyway, that's all I have to say. And I hope that this reaches somebody's ear that might help them kind of shift their viewpoint of their experience being in with Jehovah's Witnesses. But when it's time to get out, it's time to get out, and you just need to get out. That's it. You just need to get out. There's no sense in dragging it out, no sense in worrying about what's going to happen to you. You're going to be fine. And you're more powerful than you are led to believe that you are. You are very powerful, and you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. You've got to remember to have compassion. You've got to remember to have empathy, and you must have gratitude. That's all. Thanks.